What you're about to see will surprise you. Let's dive into behind-the-scenes secrets of Blazing Saddles the director didn't want people to know. Mel Brooks' 1974 classic comedy Blazing Saddles is one of the most beloved and successful movies of all time. It's almost 50 years since its release, and yet it remains a Hollywood staple and gains new fans every day. The hilarious spoof western sent up the popular genre and had people laughing all the way home, but not everyone knew the truth about what was going on behind the scenes. Let's take a look at some of the secrets from the set of this classic movie. The reason the movie wouldn't be made today? Blazing Saddles is such a popular and classic movie, but there's no denying that it's pretty controversial and contains some quite shocking scenes and language that it simply wouldn't get away with today. Writer Andrew Bergman himself admitted, "You couldn't make this movie today. You can't say the N-word in a movie today, not even in a comic way," The Telegraph reported. He is probably right, but maybe that's for the best. The legal battle off-screen. After WB fired Young and replaced him with Gene Wilder, Young was pretty upset by the decision, and he decided to sue the production company for breach of contract. However, Mel Brooks put him in his place when he declared, "On the first day of shooting, we hung him upside down in the jail cell and green stuff started spewing out of his mouth," as he recalled to Rolling Stone. Sounds like Young was the one breaching the contract. The real person Lily Von Shtupp is based on. Lily Von Shtupp is of course one of the most beloved and hilarious characters in the classic movie, but did you know that she is actually based on a real-life person? That's why it was so important to Brooks that Khan had movie star legs. That's right, Shtupp is actually a parody of Hollywood legend Marlene Dietrich. It wasn't just westerns that Blazing Saddles made fun of, but actually it was the entire movie industry. The crazy way guests showed up to the premiere. Blazing Saddles is known for being totally hilarious and just quite crazy, both in the story and behind the scenes. So guests made the world premiere for the movie just as crazy to match, holding it at the now demolished Pickwick Drive-In Theater in Burbank, California. But instead of driving in, the guests rode in, on horseback. Talk about a memorable movie event, truly in keeping with the theme of the genre. The way the movie broke the fourth wall. One of the major rules in movie making is never to break the fourth wall, i.e. don't look directly at the camera or speak to the audience. This makes the sense of reality completely disappear, and you remember it's only a movie. However, this wacky movie didn't care about those rules, and Bart not only gives himself a hug randomly, but he also turns straight to the camera and speaks to the audience. Absolutely hilarious. Why Richard Pryor wasn't cast. Even though it seemed that Mel Brooks didn't let anyone stop him from making his movie as controversial as he wanted, the truth is he didn't totally get his way with all of the production decisions. One thing Brooks wanted but didn't get his way was with casting the actor Richard Pryor. Brooks wanted him for the part of Bart, but no one would finance him because he was so controversial. So instead, he cast Cleavon Little and hired Pryor to help write the movie's script. The risque scene that didn't make the cut. Even though Brooks refused to cut any of the controversial stuff the producers tried to get rid of, there was actually one scene that was so risque it didn't make it into the final cut. It was when Lila attempts to seduce Bart in the dark and utters the words, "Is it true what they say about you people?" And then, even more shocking, Bart replies in the dark, "I hate to disillusion you, man, but you're sucking on my arm." Goodness! The shocking scene can now be seen in the deleted features. The way they tackled difficult topics. Though the movie tackled difficult subjects, it managed to do it while still being incredibly funny. This can be a super challenging task, but when done right, it makes even more of an impact. One of the stars of the movie, Gene Wilder, put it best when he said, "They've smashed racism in the face, but they're doing it while you laugh," as the Washington Examiner reported. Combining serious subjects with humor can actually be the most effective way to make a point. The scene was groundbreaking. These days, jokes about farting and flatulence are pretty much a dime a dozen. But did you know that back in the 70s, when Blazing Saddles was originally released, it was pretty unheard of and quite shocking. So the infamous farting scene at the campsite was one of the first movie scenes ever to include the sound of farts. What a bizarre but quite interesting movie milestone and honor for Brooks. The surprising continuity error. During Sheriff Bart's acceptance scene, Reverend Johnson holds up a Bible and urges everyone to not let anger rule the day, only for a bullet to unexpectedly pierce the Bible. Strangely, none of the bystanders' guns were smoking, despite using black powder firearms that would have visibly emitted smoke in 1874. Though clever editing by the filmmakers makes it hard to notice this small continuity error, it's likely an oversight. Maybe they hoped audiences wouldn't scrutinize too closely. The banner fixes itself? When Bart arrives in Rock Ridge during the swearing-in ceremony, there's an easily missed continuity error involving the Welcome Sheriff banner. Initially, the banner retracts but leaves some writing visible. However, when Bart approaches to unroll the banner again, it appears neatly closed with no writing in sight. This subtle inconsistency suggests the filmmakers fixed the banner between takes but didn't catch the mistake, proving that even meticulous directors can miss small errors in continuity. The other possible titles. You never know when the bright light of inspiration is going to strike. Even though they had made great progress with the movie, it took Mel Brooks ages to think of the perfect title. He tried out names such as Tex X, Black Bart, and The Purple Sage, but none of them worked. He suddenly thought of the title Blazing Saddles while he was taking a shower. A true case of inspiration pouring down from above. The point of the movie. We all remember Blazing Saddles as a wacky and sometimes boundary-pushing movie, especially when we think about how WB executives were so shocked by it. It's surprising to think that this was actually the whole point of the production. When Brooks first came on board to write the movie, based on Andrew Bergman's original story outline, he said to his writing team, "Please do not write a polite script." As USA Today reported, they certainly followed instructions. The surprising language the chief was speaking. As well as the Hebrew lettering on Mel Brooks' hat in the movie poster, there's another nod to a related language somewhere else in the movie. When Brooks appears as the Indian chief, he seems to be speaking an Indian language, but he is actually speaking in none other than Yiddish. He says the words, "Blacks, don't be crazy, let them go," and "Have you ever seen in your life?" The risque song that made it into the movie. It isn't just the hilarious dialogue and shocking scenes that made Blazing Saddles one of the funniest and most beloved movies of all time. It was also the soundtrack, especially the classic song, "I'm Tired." Mel Brooks is known for being a controversial director, but the truth is, he admitted that even he was shocked by this song. He revealed that it was the dirtiest song I ever wrote in my life. This actor had a hard time saying his lines. Even though Blazing Saddles is known for being super hilarious and a laugh-a-minute comedy, it actually tackles some pretty difficult and controversial subjects. For example, there is a lot of reference to racism in the movie, with some of the characters saying some pretty offensive things. So much so that Burton Gilliam found it incredibly difficult to say some of his lines, particularly when he was expected to say the N-word. So how did he get himself to do it? The reason Mel Brooks wrote the movie. Even though the film itself contains some pretty controversial scenes in language, particularly around racism, the truth is that Mel Brooks wrote Blazing Saddles as his own way of fighting racism in the world. As Empire reported, Brooks revealed that he wrote the movie as his way to fight white corruption, racism, and Bible-thumping bigotry, which he saw all throughout the movie industry and indeed the world. The things that wouldn't fly today. When Brooks first made the movie, he got into a lot of trouble due to its controversial content. As well as his repeated use of the N-word, the movie contained a lot of things that wouldn't fly today, such as the campfire farting scene, Lily Von Shtupp seducing Bart in the dark, and a horse being punched unconscious. But because Brooks had total control over the movie, he resisted all pressure from movie execs and refused to change anything. The most shocking scene. In one of the most shocking scenes that probably wouldn't be allowed today, we see Mongo knocking out a horse with a violent punch. This seems like one of the wildest stretches of the imagination, but actually, it's based on a real event. Brooks' friend and sometimes co-star Sid Caesar once revealed that he punched his wife's horse in the head, knocking it unconscious. He did it to save his wife from danger, so perhaps that makes it a little less terrible. Mel Brooks, get a lifetime supply of this. Everyone loves a chocolate-covered raisin, right? But someone might have had their fill of the delicious snack because Mel Brooks has a lifetime supply. He revealed in an interview with Playboy magazine that after mentioning them in the film, the candy company wouldn't stop sending him freebies. We mentioned Raisinets in Blazing Saddles, and now the company sends me a gross of them every month. A gross of Raisinets! What Mel Brooks would change today. Of course, the most controversial element of the movie is the use of the N-word, which is considered even more taboo today than it was back in the 1970s. Brooks said that the black cast members were not offended by the word and that most of the complaints came from white people. However, he did admit that if he remade the film today, he would have to take out all instances of the controversial word. The movie held this record for over 40 years. Perhaps because of the controversial nature or the lack of laughs at the first screening, the movie bosses didn't expect Blazing Saddles to be a huge hit. Even though they agreed to put it out, they released it in February, which is one of the least popular months for movies. In fact, Blazing Saddles became one of the only movies in history to be released in February and still reach #1 at the box office. It held this record for a whopping 44 years until the release of Black Panther in 2018. Where did they come up with the idea for the Executioner? One of the most memorable and funny characters in Blazing Saddles is the Executioner. But did you ever wonder where the creators got the idea of the name from? The truth is, he was actually named after Boris Karloff, or more specifically, his character Mord in the 1939 classic The Tower of London. Mord was a royal assassin hired to kill off any of Richard III's rivals and keep him on the throne. How Mel Brooks got away with keeping controversial scenes. Even though Brooks refused to cut any scenes, he actually went about this in a bit of a sneaky way. It was totally his choice what parts to remove or leave in, but he still received a lot of comments from WB execs. So the truth was, Brooks actually lied to the WB, telling them he was going to edit out some of the controversial scenes, but then he actually left them in. This movie was referenced in it. In a movie that simultaneously pays homage and also makes fun of the entire Hollywood Western genre, you might think it's weird that there isn't one reference to what many consider the ultimate Western, 1952's High Noon. But the truth is, there is a nod to it. You just might have missed it. Here and there throughout the film, you can hear a certain ballad being sung, which is clearly inspired by High Noon's theme, Do Not Forsake Me. Did you notice it? The High Noon connections. Not only was High Noon's theme, Do Not Forsake Me, sung throughout the movie, the original song from High Noon was sung in the movie by Tex Ritter, but someone else later recorded another popular version of the song released for radio. Can you guess who it was? That's right, it was none other than Frankie Laine, who went on to sing the title song for Blazing Saddles. In fact, there are more High Noon connections than you probably realized. These stars became close friends. As well as the hilarious movie earning a place in the hearts of viewers across the nation, it also had another heartwarming effect. Two of the stars of the movie, Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little, became firm friends thanks to their time together on set. Wilder even advised Little on how to act directly towards the camera, as Little was a Broadway actor and more accustomed to stage than film acting. This scene was based on Brooks' life. Remember the scene when Cleavon Little tries to get away from the angry mob? He puts his gun against his own head to try and defuse the situation. Even though this is a crazy scene, the truth is, it was based on a real memory from Brooks' own life. He revealed that as a child, he stole a water gun from a store, and then he used the same water gun to defend himself against the store worker who was trying to stop him. The other thing Brooks created during filming, Blazing Saddles, is undoubtedly one of the greatest highlights of Mel Brooks' career as a writer and movie maker. But did you know that he actually created something else even more amazing and important to him during this time? That's right, Brooks and his wife welcomed their son, Max Brooks, during filming. Brooks Jr. has since gone on to become a writer, following in his father's footsteps.